well, I thought what was incredible when you sent me that a message saying that you liked, that the spiritual life is the most practical life. The moment you sent that, I found these Zoran tapes. Remember
Oh,
that was
wow.
33 years ago, and Zoran was talking about David and David. He was talking about you guys just at
I,
that moment. So,
well,
when I saw that, I just wow.
kind of serendipitous, huh?
Yeah. Uh-huh. And you know what I noticed back then. What I liked about Zoran, he was real simple and down to earth. He did not, like for example, I had a conversation with him. It was only one or two sentences, but behind those sentences were kind of like the meaning of life. He wasn't into describing things into exact details, and
Right.
just the friendship, the laughter, just listening to those tapes. I don't think I ever laughed so hard in all my life.
Oh my God. I can't even believe you have those tapes.
Uh-huh.
How did you meet Zoran? In Phoenix, or was that
You
after?
guys introduced me to him. It
Wow.
was when
Okay.
I was going to work on the pyramid project. Now I was going to do the computers, and so I flew in from
Oh,
LA.
that, yeah, now I remember.
And then you and David said, we're going to see this channel tonight. And a guy named Zoran. He says, "Are you interested?" Yeah, yeah, I'll check it out. And we get to the hall a little bit late, and Zoran is speaking, but I got confused because he sounded just like Mafu.
Right.
It was coming through the loudspeaker. I said, "Why? Why is this guy speaking?" But I hear it's a Mafu speaking, and then I realized, this is the guy. Oh, he's speaking. Mafu's not speaking. I thought it was maybe it was going through the amplifier system. They were playing a Mafu tape. No, no, that wasn't the case at all.
You wouldn't believe the whole history prior to meeting Zoran, how that led up to that moment where I met him in Phoenix, and what happened the prior 6 months to that, with starting with Ramtha and Mafu, and then it was a whole thing. I went to a retreat with Ramtha out in Yucca Valley at the Metaphysical Retreat Center. You know how Ramtha, did you follow Ramtha at all? Or
Well, I tried to go, but I never made it. My wife did. She went to that same retreat. Barbara did.
yeah, so Ramtha always used to say, "I'm going to send you these runners. These runners are going to, you won't know who they are or why they show up in your life, but they're gonna bring transformation and change to your life in a very profound way." And he goes, "And I'm always sending them to people."
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
Okay, there's always that skeptical side of our brain. Anyhow, I went out there to that retreat, and this was in the middle of Easter, and he was doing a whole, or Ramtha was talking about the crucifixion and the resurrection, and it was like we're sitting out in the middle of the Yucca Valley at Easter morning at sunrise, and it was pretty profound.
Oh wow.
So anyhow, I met this woman out there. Her name was Gita. She was from Denmark. She worked in the music industry, and her husband was an international lawyer, and he collected royalties for all these music artists all over the world. And he had just had a major heart attack and passed away. And so she was out there trying to, get her life in track. And in any event, she was walking by, and I didn't know this woman. She was from New York City, and I was wearing a Ton Sertan sweatshirt, one of these real colorful sweatshirts. And she says, "Wow, what a beautiful sweatshirt." And I says, "You like it?" And I took it off my back and I gave it to her. And I said, "Since you like it so much, I'm going to give it to you." Well, she was so taken aback by that thought, that I would do that. Like, she was in the music industry, which was probably like a horror business anyhow,
Yeah.
you know. So she was just moved. Anyhow, we became friends. long story short, she invited me to she happened to own the tennis club at the Fontainebleau Hotel where I was living next door to. And I said, wow, what a coincidence. So she started telling me her story, and she was going to sell her business over there, her business interest, asked me to take the papers and go have her partner sign them and just, bring, and then she says, and just bring them up to New York. I'll send you a ticket and everything. I says, no, you don't have to do that. I don't expect anything. And certainly what she did was, she ended up inviting me up to New York to have dinner with the cast from Cats.
Oh my
And
gosh. Oh,
she says, come over. I'm going to invite them all over. We'll have dinner party and all this other stuff. And I said, okay, I can't miss out on that.
yeah.
Anyhow, I went there and met these really interesting people. So I spent 3 days in New York City with her, and I came back, and the movie Out of Africa was coming out with Robert Redford.
Oh yeah. And right. Meryl Streep, right? Yeah.
So I flew into Fort Lauderdale Airport, went to the movie to see that because it just came out. Because I love Meryl Streep and Robert Redford. The movie was very. Have you ever seen the movie?
Yeah, I saw the movie. Yep. Oh yeah, that's a great movie.
It was like in total. So anyhow, I was there with a buddy of mine. I think there was 3 people in the movie theater, and at the end of the movie, I stood up and I said, I don't know why, but I'm going to Africa. And he looked at me like, you're nuts. I said,
Oh,
I'm serious. I have to be in Africa. This is probably a week after I left that retreat. Anyhow, I went over and at that time in my life, I was going through, it was back in the 80s. We were doing drugs and all kinds of things. And, I had all these kind of issues that, I was trying to resolve in my life. Long story short, I went to Africa, and she invited me, all expense paid, 6 week safari, all over South Africa, and met some amazing people. Africa just completely blew me away, right?
mm-hmm.
Who lands in Africa is this kid from no, he was from Portugal. This very, very wealthy kid. He was 23 years old and he was a heroin addict. And he comes in there, and the first night we go to dinner, he pulls out this bag of barbiturates because he's going through, his father had sent him there to meet with some people to go through some of his recovery. And I'm sitting in Africa in Johannesburg, and I'm going, unbelievable. I have to leave Miami to come all the way to Africa and sit with this guy who's a drug addict.
Oh my God.
So anyhow, ultimately what happened, he was such a mirror for me that whole 6 weeks. He hung out with us, became a very good friend. And here we are, 2 people on opposite ends of the world, opposite ends of the track financially. Everything was, but here we were, we had this, this similar experience and created a lot of rapport. Anyhow, it was a great mirror for me. And subsequently, what happened is I left Africa and came back to Miami, and I looked at Schweitzer and I said, I'm leaving here. I don't know why. I got in my car and I started driving, Richard. And I got into I didn't have a place. I didn't have a destination. I just was compelled to drive. And subsequently, I got into Santa Fe, and I said, holy crap, I'm 2 states away from California.
Yeah.
Arizona, and I said, I don't even have a home. Anyhow, I drove and I got into Flagstaff, and I just went, wow, this is where I'm supposed to be. And that's where I spent the next year and a half in Arizona, so I went into Phoenix and didn't know a soul there. I met this girl, Deborah, who was part of the Ramp the Mafu group. And we went to an event, and she says, I want you to come and see this speaker called Zoran. And I said, oh, okay. And she says, just, similar experience with Mafu, but, different, little different energy. And I said, okay, so I'd love to. Well, I go to this event. It's like a Thursday night. And I walk in, there's like 300 or 400 people in there. And she comes into her body, and Zoran comes over there and does a beeline for me in the back of the room. I don't even know who Zoran is. Right?
Yeah.
And I'm sitting there. He goes, you know why you're here? And I said, I've been asking myself that question. He says, well, you're part of this whole Galactica CIA that you've been on a journey with throughout the ages, you go from, different solar systems and blah, blah, blah. And I said, okay, well, that's cool. you know,
Uh-huh.
and subsequently, he says, you're a connector. You're here to pull people. You're going to be connecting people from all over the world that are going to come here. There's going to be a meditation center in Sedona. And, and this is all foreign to me. I'm like, okay, well, I don't really know anybody here, but if that's what my mission is, then I guess I'm on my journey, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
That's how that all started.
Oh my gosh. Oh, whoa. I had no idea. Huh.
Yeah, so I called up Schweitzer. I said, Schweitzer, I don't know, but I think you need to get out here. And then we
Uh-huh.
met this guy, Brent, and then a series of people that we met out there. And then we went to Santa Barbara. We met a group over there with Mafu and
Mhm.
some very wealthy people. They were all going to invest in this meditation center in Sedona. So that's how that all kind of evolved in the beginning stages. It was kind
Uh-huh.
of, so then Schweitzer met with Zoran, I think, and same thing, it's similar conversation. So I guess maybe you've had a similar conversation.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, most definitely. Yeah, yeah. Same kind of conversation. Yeah.
So yeah, it was a very, very interesting time in my life, and it was a very healing time. Subsequently, I never did drugs again after that whole experience. My life completely shifted. When I left Sedona, I came back and, wasn't even sure what I was going to do. And then subsequently I ended up working for Tony Robbins for 10 years,
Yeah, that's
and
what I
that's,
heard. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh,
and
wow.
so I worked over there for about 10 years with him and
What's
seeing
that
the
like?
whole, really good. It was a really great experience. He's an amazing human being. I mean, he's brilliant beyond belief. And, you know, I think he's kind of an alien, but,
Yeah. Uh-huh.
but his experience in life is, at that time, he wasn't as spiritual as he is today. He didn't have,
Yeah, I
the
remember
same,
that. Yeah, 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 yeah. Uh-huh.
so, he's really evolved into that, understanding of the dynamics between, metaphysics and, his personal growth. But his stuff was great because his information was based on the brain and how it functions. It was more neuroassociative conditioning, how we function in our brain, how we associate through communication and language and
Mhm.
NLP. It was all neurolinguistics, and he was very well versed in Ericksonian hypnosis, and but he was doing stuff a little bit outside the scope of what we might have been doing in the channeling space, but it resonated.
Mhm. Yeah.
I was watching his infomercial in 1989. I said, I like this guy. He's kind of interesting because it kind of met with my values.
Yeah,
Because
yeah, yeah, yeah.
I said, I wonder if I could go to work with this guy because I was looking for some work. So I called up Robbins Research in San Diego and says, "You guys hiring?" No, but we'll sell you a franchise for $50,000. I go, oh, I don't have $50,000, so I don't think that's in the cards. Anyhow, a year and a half, I went to work with another speaker by the name of Brian Tracy, and then ended up about 2 years later, ended up segueing over to Tony's company. And,
Mhm.
that's how I ended up working for Tony. Everything has been kind of magical, it's all serendipitous in some levels, but very designed, that was giving me direction in my life because it was a very strong healing process at that point in time, and it
Mhm.
was good. Had a really great journey, met some cool people. I was in the personal growth space for almost 20 years, and all the biggest speakers on the planet, from Les Brown to Jim Rohn. I don't know if you know these names. These are well-known people in the speaking. These are some of the most forward-thinking thought leaders on the planet.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, wow, wow.
I got to hang out with them for almost a couple decades. And, it was
Mhm.
great, great experience.
Uh-huh.
Now I'm back to being a human being.
Mhm. Yeah, and that's part of the human being is gather all that wisdom, isn't it? Human,
Yeah.
divine mind, right? So looks like you've been in the arena of divine minds, for people all throughout the world. Oh, yeah, that's what an opportunity. Yeah, oh, for sure.
So
Yeah,
I was telling David, I saw you, because I read all your stuff on Facebook when you post it. And I said, it's funny because I said, I was telling him the other day, I said, I feel like my life's coming full circle. I don't know why we're all getting together, but it's interesting,
it is, isn't it? Yeah, David and I, we've been in touch, but I haven't, spoken to you. I guess I think since
Since
uh,
back then, I
yeah,
think.
back then, yeah, yeah. I was always, intrigued. That David would give me small snippets, saying that you're working with Tony Robbins, and I thought that was great. So, but yeah, yeah, this is great too, and I love your on your wall, that the quote, the only impossible journey that you said, is a journey that you don't embark on.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
That's what it's about.
Uh, so that's kind of like how do I say it? For the last 20 years I've been really trying to put my feet on the ground. I worked for Charles Schwab for 10 years. I worked for the observatory in Maui for 6 years. I worked for the Navy SEALs, worked for the USDA, uh, but all at the same time, leading a spiritual life, a life that was grounded, and also, I call it feet on the ground and head in heaven. That's kind of like that's the primary, I think, thing that this world needs to have our feet on the ground. We should be responsible for this earth. We should only do actions that benefit this earth. And unfortunately, we're so far away with that. But every little bit, every human being has a piece of the puzzle. That's what I call it, is the puzzle.
Yeah, well, it is definitely a puzzle. It's an interesting time we're in. And, I think we were way ahead of, back in the 80s. I think we were pretty far ahead of a lot of people.
Yeah.
Quantum physics really wasn't as mainstream as it is today.
Hmm.
And you think we were really ahead of our time. And I just think this is, we're going through a big transformation on our planet. I don't know where it's going to end up. I mean, it's concerning.
Hmm.
I think there's a lot of negative, dark rhetoric out there, but I try to keep it in balance and keep a positive mind, not get too wrapped up in it, because people are people.
And no one gets a free ride. No civilization gets a free ride. Just think, there's civilizations out there probably been around for 1 trillion years, and they have to go to the same stuff that you go from darkness to light. That's kind of like that. I call it a video game of life. That's how it is. That you have beings like Rantha, Mafu, call it whoever, the Christ, Buddha. They come down to earth, and they hand out a wisdom, saying the answers lie inside. You're not going to find the answer outside of yourself. It's inside. And
Have you ever read any of the book, The Laws of Success by Napoleon Hill?
oh, yeah, 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 oh yeah, definitely, yeah, I read that
The big, thick Bible he wrote, that
yeah.
was the original premise to Think and Grow Rich. And then in The Laws of Success, everything he writes about is, the universal laws. It's all principally based universal.
Yeah.
And, he always wrote, he says, the law of correspondence is one of them. And I always live by this philosophy, from within, so without.
Yeah.
So,
Yeah.
it goes back to what, a Gigo or something, but garbage in, garbage out, good things in, good things out.
Yeah.
Have you ever, Michael Saylor, right? You've heard of him?
Oh, yeah, 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 definitely. Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
I was listening to him today talking about Bitcoin, and there was a guy interviewing him on YouTube, and it was interesting because one of the things he alluded to is, says, that Bitcoin is an energy, and he goes, it's just like fire. He says, you can take a piece of wood, this matter, and you can burn it and it'll turn into light because the energy shifts around it. And I said, that is, really great analogy because that's how we are. We can shift our energy and create a whole different process. And he had a really great metaphor for the world of, what we're going into the new digital era of economics and, what has happened. It's very spiritually based, actually,
Mhm.
because it's a whole energy that's being created out there.
Yeah, I was a software engineer for 35 years.
Oh, were you?
So at the when I first started out, I saw, wow, just think every single computer program out there contains bugs. And that's and how you grow is through your mistakes. There's nothing else there, and so my philosophy over the years is I can program my life the way I want it to. Granted, it's not going to be perfect at first. It's 2 steps forward, 1 step back, two steps forward, 1 step back. We can never rest on our laurels, right? We can never say, "Oh, hey, I know it all." Yeah.
What do you say that the older I get, the more I realize how little I know?
Yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. Yeah.
So, yeah, it's definitely it's an interesting time in our life. So you work for Schwab. What did you were doing computer
Yeah, for
program?
software. I wrote a program. One of the programs I wrote was let's say if you work for Schwab and you were a broker, you sign on the dotted line that when you leave the company, you would never take any of your clients with you. So imagine this: if this was in 2008, and Schwab never had any mechanism set in place, so they had no idea. So my manager came up and said, we have a serious problem here. We're probably losing billions of dollars a year, and we don't know it. So anyway, make a long story short, I accomplished it. In our first month, we saw this one broker, attempt to take $100 million of assets from Schwab to his new employer. So from that moment on, the brokers knew that they couldn't get away with it anymore. So I got a letter from the lawyers about a year later. Said, you probably saved us $1 billion this year. But now here's the clincher. This was 2008, right? When the bubble, was being burst in the real estate market and real estate.
Were you a broker with them?
I was a software engineer.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so I was designing programs. I was designing tools to help and assist the brokers. But anyway, here's what happened. Anybody who worked on the project got laid off. That this was because one, I was working with a team, and I was living in California at the time. I was working from a team in Colorado and Indianapolis and let's say Arizona and Florida. So we're all working together. And so when it came to the layoffs, that they automatically. But then I was reaching 55, and with Schwab, unfortunately when you reach 55, they don't consider you useful anymore because you're making too much money.
Welcome to corporate America, right?
Yeah. So anyway, I got laid off, and I said, well, they gave me great severance pay. And a week later, I get a phone call from the USDA in Kansas, and they called and they said, "Do you want to do a phone interview?" I go, "Yeah, sure, why not? I got nothing to lose." I did the phone interview, and then half hour later, my wife says, "You got the job." I said, "What job?" That interview that you did for the USDA over the phone, they hired you, sight unseen. So we've been here in Kansas City now for 11 years. My wife's family is from here. and but we were living in Ashland, Oregon. So that's how I ended up here.
That's a nice town, though. I like Kansas City. I do a lot of work up there. We're in the insurance business, so I do employee benefits all over the country for a lot of corporations. So I was actually born in Wichita.
Oh yeah,
Uh,
I didn't know that. Oh wow. Oh
yeah,
cool. Oh
yeah.
wow.
Came to Florida in 1959,
Uh-huh.
and moved to Miami with my family, and I was 4 years old, and been here almost 60 years now. Over
Uh-huh.
60 years, with the exception of the time I was out in California. But
Yeah. Oh wow.
so, what do you do? Do you still work with them, or?
No, no, the USDA, since then, right now, I am starting a business. It's called Rings. It's a technology where imagine you have one ring, and one ring can have 10 slides, 60 slides, or 70 slides. And so
Mhm.
one slide can talk to another ring or talk to another a website or whatever, a PDF. So
Mhm.
what right now, what we're using it for is in New York City, uh, the majority of people delivering, it's say like pizzas and food, to people's houses, or they're from West Africa. So
Mhm.
they're independent contractors.
Mhm.
Grubhub, that basically they they could care less about them. They're a commodity. They
Mhm.
that's just how. I mean, they're $1 billion company, and that's their business model. So anyway, make a long story short, we are in the process of uniting all the workers, the delivery people in New York City. We're going to start a corporation where they're co-owners of the company.
Oh, wow.
So
Fantastic.
so this way, if you're a co-owner, you're going to put your heart and soul, and you're an owner of the
You
company.
got skin in the game. Yeah.
Yep, yep. So that is our overall plan. So we're meeting with my friend Guy sold his company about 10 years ago, actually about 15 years ago for $25 million. So he went to
Fantastic.
Princeton, and he's extremely well connected. One of his classmates was the CEO for Google. So he's extremely well connected. So that's my next project. Is
Well,
working on this.
well, we're definitely in a technology world, and those kinds of things are evolving very fast. Are you using any type of artificial intelligence for that process, or is it just
No,
uh,
not at this point. No, not
yeah,
yet. Yeah,
yeah, yeah,
yeah.
interesting. Yeah, I mean, the technology is advancing very, very quick, and it's definitely, you're in the right space for sure. I mean, you look at these companies are these guys doing like food delivery for?
Yeah, food delivery. Right. So this
Now,
could be, what's happening right now. If you own a pizza parlor, let's say in New York City, and you have a delivery, here's that Grubhub or whatever it's called, the
Mhm.
Greedy Hub. You know,
Right.
basically they charge about 30% of your costs. That's not your profit. So if a pizza costs, let's say like $100 for an order, they're going to get $30. And not only that, they're going to get the delivery
Grubhub
fee.
does?
Yeah. And get this, all the delivery services have that same kind of business model. And not only that, but get this, when they if they put a tip, for the delivery person, on
Yeah.
on the bill, that money does not go to them. It goes to them. So consequently, it's the pizza, the restaurants in New York City are folding. They can't afford it. The delivery people, just are having a hard time making it. These guys are extremely intelligent. A lot of them have masters and PhDs. Unfortunately, they come from Africa, which should not be. We shouldn't make it. So they speak uh, English, British English. So automatically Americans don't think that they're intelligent, but hey, it's a different form of, it's a different dialect, British English. These guys are extremely, hardworking, intelligent, and they need a break. So this is the kind of the scenario that has been painted to us, and so we have. Uh,
You
uh,
wonder how many of those people are like Elon Musk. You wouldn't think he's coming from South Africa, right?
oh, I know, yeah. I don't think I ever told you. I hitchhiked once from France. I mean, from Kenya to South Africa in the early '70s.
Did you?
Yeah. Uh-huh.
Beautiful country.
Oh my
Beautiful.
gosh. Oh yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
Very, that's like living in God's world right
Yeah.
there. You know, that was I spent 6 weeks on different safaris in different places from Swaziland to Kruger Park, Sabi Sabi. You get out there in the bush, it's like, whoa.
Yeah. Oh my
And
gosh. Oh.
that's when you realize you're just a microcosm of the universe, right?
Yeah. Really. Yeah, I wrote a book on keys to the universe, the laws of the universe. That's one of the very first books that I wrote 10
Oh,
years
is
ago.
that right?
And
Nice.
yeah, that's kind of like for somehow how do I put this? I never thought I would write because I hated writing when I was a kid. It was not my cup of tea. And
Uh-huh.
then all of a sudden, the last 5 years, I got kind of directed to do that. So it's kind of been my passion. Just
Good.
to have you know, uh, I'm always learning and growing. Much like what you're doing. Yeah. We all have our passions, our interests.
Well, it's interesting. Tony does a program called Date with Destiny, and um, the basis of that program is about our values and how, most people have certain things that, when you look at your hierarchy of values, like one of my biggest values is learning and growing. Okay.
Yeah. Yeah.
My,
Yeah.
my wife, her biggest value is family. So, when you look at the difference, where family isn't as important to me as learning and growing. So in his program, he does Date with Destiny. It's about how to align your values to your hierarchy. So you're always moving towards what you're passionate about, towards what you really drives you. And, in writing a book, is your journey. It's your life, I think it's great. It's a great way to really see the history of your life and where you've
Mhm.
come from, where you're going, So I I I need to start writing my book. So maybe that's why we're talking.
Yeah. 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 I wrote, my journey, called, what the fuck, that's basically, what. I mean, here it was. I thought I was eating organic food, most of my life. I've been in preventive medicine all my life.
Right.
And I reached a point, where I didn't even know it. I lost as my left pinky toe.
Oh wow. Okay. No, I didn't know that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So, that was only about 3 months ago. And they were saying, so you talking to the doctors, and they were saying, diabetes, or pre-diabetes cannot be healed. And then I said, yeah, well, that's probably true if you continue with the same lifestyle, and you continue eating the same foods. So just think, in 3 months, by doing my own research, I'm now down to the same weight I was in high school. My blood sugar levels went from 411 in the hospital to now it is around 100. My
Wow.
blood pressure, went from 160 to 180, and now it's down to 110. So,
Beautiful.
and that's all just by a mindset. I've taken a look at the latest scientific knowledge, which science is 50 years behind time. So as we know, it takes over 50 years for a common knowledge that scientists have today to get established into society.
Well, if I learned one thing back in the 80s, because I was back in the drug days of Miami, and everybody was smoking pot, doing quaaludes, and blowing coke, and doing all kinds of things. And I was in a very dark place, and then David introduced me to Ramtha, and that kind of opened my eyes a little bit. And I went to visit with Ramtha in a retreat, and and he talked to me one day in an event, and just really it shifted me about how my thoughts really were so powerful. I never really thought about it from the perspective of the way he was teaching it in his seminar, in his seminars. And I said, well, you really think like I could actually get rid of this addiction that I have. And subsequently I did. I mean, when I gave up on, drinking and drugging and all that stuff, I was 32 years old. I was in a really bad place in my life, and I overcame it, and it's funny, when I came back to Miami after I left Sedona, I went and I saw one of my old friends, and he says, oh, you're an addict and all this stuff. And he says, you need to go to AA. I says, no, I don't. I don't need that stuff. He goes, no, you're always going to be an addict. I says, no, I'm not. And so anyhow, he said, I think it would be good for you, it'd be healthy for you to come to a meeting down in Coconut Grove. So I went down there, and I didn't even know what NA or AA was. I just had a basic understanding of it. And yeah, I walked in there, and all these guys are sitting in a room. They're all going, my name is David, and I'm an addict, and I'm a drug addict. And they came around to me, and I said, I'm David. I'm a recovered addict. Well, you think the room would have, and they're like arguing, you can't say that. And I said, yes, I can. I don't have to reinforce a thought in an unconscious level that says I'm an addict. I'm not anymore. And I have overcome that demon in my life. And I've lived by that principle. It's interesting because later on, probably about 10 years later, I ended up with ulcerative colitis, and it's an inflammatory bowel disease, and I really suffered with it. So I went to a gastro doctor, and he says, he goes, you've got a pretty severe case, and I'm going to put you on some medication. He goes, and I said, so what causes this? I said, I'm not really, this is like my first rodeo with this disease. And he said, well, we really don't know. I says, you don't know? I mean, it's been around for.
Yeah, exactly.
You don't know what causes it. Okay, well, I started to do my own research, and subsequently, I was able to overcome ulcerative colitis.
Yeah.
And years ago, I went in for a colonoscopy. I showed him my films from 5 years prior. So I said, I went to do my new GI with a colonoscopy. The doctor, so I showed him my films from before, and he said, wow, you really got a pretty serious case. And so when he went in to do the colonoscopy, he says, you don't have a trace of ulcerative colitis anywhere in your body.
Oh, wow. Oh.
He says, you can't tell me that these are the same films, because I've never seen anybody with this disease overcome it.
Wow. Oh, gosh.
I said, it's just, I can tell you lots of stories about those kinds of things in my life, and it's, we can self-heal, we can do it.
Yeah, definitely. I have an expression, we are our own chemistry stats. We are in charge of the chemicals that gets released in the human body. Just think, there are miraculous chemicals just waiting to be released if we follow the basic laws of nature. Nature provides miraculous, events, healing events, if we are in tune with them. With our Western lifestyle and the stress that we have, no wonder, it's kind of a miracle that we're still alive, humanity as a whole. The body can take us so much abuse.
Our body is miraculous.
Yeah,
I mean,
yeah, exactly.
really, pretty much heal whatever you want it to heal. You just have to have the desire and understanding at a not only at a conscious level, but even at an unconscious level. It's
Mhm.
I always loved what Tom Watson did at IBM, because he always had signs around his company that said, think. That was his whole corporate culture. You know, um, when he developed IBM, that was his mantra. His affirmation. He had
Yeah.
signs all over the place that think. Think, folks, think.
Mhm.
People don't think. They just walk around robotically in a very unconscious way. So,
And today we probably would say think and feel, by
yeah.
by thinking and feeling, the essence within. You can imagine wisdom with feeling can do incredible things. So, we think, and we developed an atomic bomb, but that, thinking process was not aligned with the universal process. We were basically, we were creating a weapon truly of mass destruction. So there's uh, many different sides of thinking, but I think thinking and wisdom have to be tied together. You know, when we think for the benefit of mankind, great things can happen. When we think for the benefit of solely for an organization, like today, like an Amazon, yeah, I don't have to.
Tony has a new book out that just came out called Life Force, and it's he was invited to every year the Vatican, the Pope, he invites some of the foremost people in science and health and medicine to a symposium every year, and these are on the cutting edge of stem cell research and healing research, and everything that's really in the modern world of science and medicine. And it's a pretty interesting book because Tony was invited to go there and be a keynote speaker. In the meantime, he's in this room with all these brilliant scientists and guys on the cutting edge of stem cell research. And
Oh wow! Oh,
so it's a great book. I mean, I don't know if you listen to Audible or you read books, but and he went there and he was just blown away. And he gives all these examples of cutting edge science that's happening right now. There's so much profound stuff going on in this back scenes of our world, that we don't even know. I mean, it's when I listened to this book, I went, wow,
yeah.
what we can do through modern science and medicine, and people are going to be living long lives. It's you just got to be tuned into it. If you're tuned into it, it's going to show up in your life.
Yeah.
Unfortunately, people are tuned into, all the political rhetoric that goes on, and it's, concerning,
Mhm. Yeah, I like guys like Joe Dispenza. I like how
Yeah.
he's totally transforming people. I became friends with his chief scientist, the guy at the
Mhm.
University of La Jolla. Somehow we just kind of hit it off, and we talk
Mhm.
every once in a while. I
Yeah,
like
Joe's great.
Zach Bush is another person.
Mhm.
He's
Mhm.
and David Sinclair.
Yeah.
Uh, I like I like people who definitely think outside the box and aren't afraid by the scientific community for backlash. Because like I
Right.
wrote a poem of let's see, was that about Galileo? There he was. He got a house arrest for the rest of his life for saying that the Earth goes around the sun. The sun does not go around the Earth. And so the Pope and all the scientists during the day, that fortunately they didn't kill him. That they wanted to, I'm sure, but they didn't. But he was a father of biology, father of astrophysics, father of astronomy, father. I think he was the father of calculus. He did so many incredible things just in this being in house arrest.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
then I said, in that and they would probably kill me back then for saying what I'm saying today.
Well, I mean, look, we've been out there, and always thinking outside the box. It's we've been I mean, I can't speak for everybody, but I've been very blessed in my life, to be able to be exposed to the things I've been exposed to on many different realms, and
Yeah,
it's
yeah. Uh-huh.
but there's no place that I think, we arrive. It's just we're on a journey. The
Mhm.
journey is perpetual. It's a perpetual, quest and seeking, you know, going. It's the story of the prodigal son in the Bible.
Mhm.
Where
Yeah, yeah.
we leave the Father, we come to the world, and then we go back. When we go back to the Father, and
Mhm.
it's a very simple metaphor. And most people don't even understand the metaphor of the prodigal son. Because to me, that's like we leave from God and we come to the physical to have our experiences. We come here, we squander what we have, whatever we do. But
Uh-huh. Yeah.
if we awaken and decide to go back home to the Father, where we came from, our Creator, which is the God Self, there's great, celebration that happens in that.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah.
So I think it's a great metaphor for our journey. It's
Uh-huh.
and God allows us to come here and
Mhm.
find ourselves, and that's what we're here for. That's what I believe. I don't know if it's right, or you're probably more versed in that space than I am, but we're just on that journey.
Mhm. Yeah, yeah. Hold on. I agree with you 100% on that. Fortunately, I always knew that. I always knew it. Even when I was 4 years old, I knew that there was a light inside of me. I
Mhm.
knew that there was this inner frequency inside of me. No one talked about it. I was, and and I, I never understood why. Because it seems, cause see, I'm a twin. I don't know if you know that. I have a twin brother, and John and I, we
Yeah.
had our own, language, with each other. We just had those subtle things that we knew, and most people didn't want to even hear about it. They had no interest whatsoever. So for many years, we just kept to ourselves, about it.
Well, it's interesting you say that. Even, I remember as a kid when I was growing up, I was deep into thought as a kid. I reflect back on it and I think about some of the processes that I went through as a child through elementary and junior high and high school. And I always had an inner awareness of things. It's like I would look at my friends and go, see what's going on here. Like I could see things and feel things and experience things that other people didn't. And it
Mhm.
was, sometimes I thought it was a curse. Other times, as I got older, I realized it was a blessing. So it's, you got to be tuned into it to really, to feel that experience of, it's almost, it took me many years to awaken to the true purpose of what all that was about, you know?
Mhm.
And, look, again, it's that journey that we all come into, in this planet. And,
Well, look how incredible just this sense of intuition is. In terms of intuition, is a tool where moment by moment, if you use it's like a tuning fork.
mhm,
If whatever you automatically let's say even in a business deal, if someone is trying to do a shady act towards you, you can sense, you can feel
mhm,
the body has intelligence. It will tell you, uh, you know, don't listen to this guy, so on and
mhm,
so forth. And I see that every day in my life, intuition and synchronicity. Uh,
mhm.
and the way I look at signposts are everywhere. The more you pay attention to something, the more attention it pays to you. That's the good and bad and the ugly. If you have bad traits and you pay attention to them, that's what you're going to become.
Yeah, it's a law of attraction, right?
Yeah, yeah, yeah,
Attract into the world what your major dominant thoughts are.
yeah,
That's why it's important to be careful what you think about. It's manage your thoughts carefully.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
It's interesting. My mother-in-law just moved in with us. She's 91 years old, and she has dementia. And I when I left California, I came back to Florida because my dad was a Parkinsonian, and I came back to visit them at Christmas, and I looked at him and I looked at my mother and I said, she's never going to make it. So I left San Diego, came back, and moved in with them to take care of him, while he was going through his stages of Parkinson's disease. And I learned a lot about the brain, and how it functions, and neurons and our central nervous system. But dementia, whew, that's I look at my mother-in-law, her memory, she's got about a 30-second memory span, and all her short-term memory is just gone.
Yeah.
It's
Wow.
it's really bizarre. And I said to my wife the other day, I said, that your mother being in our life is really a wake-up call that, you just can't take things for granted in this world. You gotta manage it. You gotta think you can't just be, I mean, it's important to be in the moment, but you also have to think into the future, I think, you know.
Yeah, that's why I think, a lot of these Western diseases, it was it's David Sinclair said, uh, even disease is a disease. Death is a disease. And in terms of, we should be able to live so much more longer, than what we do, and live a much more productive life. Even right now, with my left pinky toe gone, right now, physically and mentally, I feel like I'm in my 40s, just by making small adjustments. And all, for me, it just came to diet, because I've been doing yoga for 50 years, meditating for 50 years. My thought process, are extremely healthy. But once again, there's basic laws, which in our society, common sense really is uncommon. Our Western diet should have been banned years ago. Totally. We are so divorced from nature and the earth. Um, it just kind of blow, and just by tweaking myself, people say, "Oh, I can never give that up." I says, "Well, yeah, yeah," to myself, "Yeah, you would give that up if you lost your left pinky toe."
Right.
And the guy in the hospital says, "You're lucky you came to this hospital, because you went anywhere else, they would have chopped off your left foot." He says that's
Wow.
how serious it was. He said this operation that I performed was just as serious as someone with stomach cancer. And he says most people don't live more than 5 years after any kind of amputation, because most people don't want to take responsibility.
Mhm.
Uh, I once was designed some heart surgeon software, and one day I talked to the CEO. We were just chatting, and I said, "How come preventative medicine isn't the norm in our society?" And he looked at me with a scorn, and and he says, "You got to be kidding me! Nobody wants to take responsibility for their own life. They want medicine, a pill. That's what they're looking for, a pill to take care of them." I never.
Well, it's that's our drug culture. We live in a society that's give pills, give pills, give. When my father was going through Parkinson's, he was on 10 different medications. He was, I mean, gone. I took him up to Shands Institute at Florida, University of Florida. There happened to be a doctor there, one of the top neurologists in the country. He said, and he was into preventative medicine. He said, first of all, get your father off all medication. We're going to change his diet. And my father was diabetic, and he had Parkinson's. And, it was really an interesting lesson about, this guy was such a proponent against drugs. He says,
Wow.
and this is a top neurosurgeon and brilliant guy. But, he was doing stuff with baby embryos and, inject.
Mhm.
My father was not a candidate for it because he was really too old. But
Yes. Yeah.
some of the you got to listen to Tony's book on life force.
Yeah, I'll definitely take a look at that. Yeah.
Gets into this whole discussion about the placenta, when
Hmm.
babies. Did you ever learn anything about that or study about it? Pretty interesting. I mean, there's you at time of birth, you can take the placenta from a baby, from the mother's womb, and you can put it in cryogenics, and they can pull from, if you have the capacity to do that, pay for it for a lifetime. But literally, if you had, a disease in the future, you could go into your placenta and they could pull out
All the
the
stem
stem.
cells for it. Yeah. Right.
They can pull the stem cells out, and you can literally regrow a toe,
Hmm.
because it's your original life force.
Hmm.
And there's companies out there that create banks for this stuff today. Pretty interesting. I mean, the science out there is really miraculous. The
And
actual,
then
and they're saying we're going to live to be 120 years old by the time 2050 rolls around. The average age will be 100. So
mhm.
that's because of modern technology and medicines and things like that.
And the thing is, energetic medicine. I think that, when you were going back to Tesla, that's what he was talking. Energetics. You know, I, for years I never paid attention to the chakra systems at all. I just kind of thought, okay, they're almost like New Age psyche. But then I started researching the Jains who've been around for 5,000 years, the yogis and the Chinese and with their acupuncture and all these groups, and then I really started, to paying attention to see that, that the chakras are directly related to the endocrine system. So you
Mhm.
have first the diseases exist in our energy field, and so if you dissolve the energy in the energy field, it won't manifest inside the human body. So first, any disease is in your energy field. So those are the energetics, which in the energy field, which I would call the quantum field, pure and simple, right? Yeah, yeah. There's not, even heaven, for me is a manifestation of the quantum field in another form. There's infinite universes, infinite fields. It's just a, a how do I say it? What the human mind has the capability to tune into that frequency. That's simple as it is. So when a loved one leaves, they're just moving into the next door in the mansion of life.
That's a fact. I learned a lot through my father's experience of his Parkinson's, because you never know how the depth of the human spirit, how it can go on. And I always we nicknamed him Lazarus because he always used to come back from the dead. And my brother would call and say, "How's Dad today?" And I said, "Laz is back," you know,
Oh wow.
because we would mourn him and we'd think this is it, he's gone. And sure, he'd come home and he'd live another 6 months, and from hospice, and it was miraculous. I go, and I was trying to grapple with it. Where does he pull this from? You know, my father was a priest, and he was the priest and a Greek Orthodox priest in a
Okay,
same
okay, okay. Yeah.
same church for 40 years.
Oh wow. How cool. Oh wow. Uh-huh.
Yeah, and it was, I struggled with a lot of his stuff because I go, how does a guy like this serve the community for 40 years? And then in the end, he goes through this process of his, you know, physical change and transformation and suffering. And, and I thought to myself, I wonder if it's part of our human nature that God wants us all to go through some form of suffering to understand our own human existence. I wasn't
Yeah.
I didn't really come up with an answer, but it was interesting watching the dynamics of this process for 7 8 years, and what
Mhm.
he went through. And
Well, all these breakthroughs come from people. Let's say like how you healed yourself. You reached a point, and Western medicine said you can't cure this, and so you investigated, almost all these guys, Sinclair, all these Zach Bush, every single one of them had diseases similar to you and different manifestations. And Western science is what was saying you can't cure this.
Impossible.
It's impossible. Exactly. So all these guys is saying, well, I'm going to find a solution. So the solutions are out there. It's the mindset of our society saying, because so many people, what the doctor says, what the doctor says. You don't question that.
Well, you know how I overcame my addiction was going back to the chakras. Every day when I was when I arrived in Arizona, David was building pyramids back then. Remember? I don't know.
Yeah, I
if you
remember that. Yeah, my wife and Barbara were the only people out of Ramtha building pyramids. So yeah.
Okay. So I had David send me when I had it over my bed, and every day, maybe I think a couple times a day, actually, now that I reflect back on it, I used to go in there and I would start in my crown chakra, and and I'd go like this, and I go, I love my brain, I love my mind, I love my nose, I love my, and it was all about loving the cells of my body and seeing them completely heal and take away the addiction out of my body and bring my body back into a full state of health. And, it was all about, going from here to my pituitary to my, base chakra. And that was where my energy focused on that light coming through my crown chakra and just emanating through every cell in my body. And I would visualize on this for an hour in meditation. And I did this under the pyramid, So, people don't believe that story when I tell them about how I overcame addiction and, drug utilization and just through meditation and self-love,
Well, you're changing your chemistry set. When you change your chemistry set for the better, your disease will automatically go.
You right? I mean,
yeah, exactly. Yeah. People don't realize, that we have we have a lab, whether we like it or not. We have a lab, and most people's labs are on autopilot. We wonder why we're so messed up with the drugs we take and the foods we eat and our lifestyle and the stress and getting into the political chaos and the media. Oh, I can go on and on. Versus a person who knows that there's another way of looking at life all together. We can. I won't say control 100%. I don't think you ever will control 100%, but you can also you can lead the subconscious in the healing. There's because so many times people said, "Oh, well, your healing is only done by the subconscious," and when I go, "Oh yeah, hey, incredible!" Just think 95% of your actions stem from your subconscious. Only 5 is conscious. I say, well, if it's coming from my subconscious, that's good news.
it's a programming function, we're the perfect computer, right?
Yeah, yeah, definitely.
Brain is the perfect software. You just gotta, it gets viruses every now and again. You gotta do an antiviral cleaning.
Yeah.
So tell me about your process of healing recovery. What precipitated, you going through that process? And I know you had you said you were diabetic, or?
Well, what I did is I had these sores on my feet, that they were for about a year. So we tried to heal them, and then this about 4 months ago, both my feet swelled up. So I haven't been to a doctor in like 50 years. So I went to an acupuncturist. He says, that this is not good news. You should go to the ER or one of those clinics. So I went to a clinic and they said the same thing. Make a long story short, I went to the hospital, and the doctor says you came in here just in perfect timing. not they say over 90% of the people in the hospitals, and they say about 90% of Americans are pre-diabetic due to our lifestyles. So, make a long story short, the doctor said, I can I can't save your left pinky toe. I'll have to cut it out. But basically, he was just telling me, that by you doing research, you'll find ways, where this will never happen again. So, with my brother, I talked to David Schweitzer a couple of times. My brother has been, and it's kind of ironic. 20 years ago, he had a physical checkup, and the doctor says, this was when he was in his 50s, that your body is of a 20 and 30-year-old. But here they said, here's a caveat. If you continue eating like what you're doing right now in 10 years, you'll be pre-diabetic. And basically, I was eating the same foods, that he was. I was, eating the breads, the grains, the dairy. Those are the main culprits. So everything that I ate was organic. Well, so anyway, since then, just doing the research and just fine tuning my dietary lifestyle. I
Simple steps in action creates a long-term beneficial result.
Yeah.
It's not dramatic. You don't have to do things dramatically. You just have to do them incrementally.
Yep. Exactly. And they were saying, basic diabetes is kind of like the beginning of the end of the human body. The human body slowly starts shutting down. So diabetes will lead to Parkinson's, will lead to heart disease, will lead to strokes, will bring to kidney disease, pancreas. One by one, the systems start shutting down. That's how serious it is. So when I started to do that research and saw what the effects were, I thought, wow. I'm not doing any sacrifice at all by changing my diet. Just like there's once again basic human laws. If we as humans would live by them and understand them, and I even wrote a book about the laws of the universe. So here just think, you can have a PhD in nutrition, but yet if you don't follow the basic laws, you're in the same boat as anybody else.
Yeah.
So
Exactly.
that's and get this. I was taking this because I was taking a healing course from the Tibetans, from a Tibetan Lama on Milarepa's healing techniques, and basically it was like a 12-week course on self healing. So here it is. By taking this course, I had the biggest, most intense healing crisis of my life. So,
well, it was perfect timing.
yeah.
Did you ever listen to Dr. Gundry?
Oh yeah. The heart guy, right? Yeah. I like him. Yeah.
He's really phenomenal. I follow him more and more, and he is. And it's funny because when I was listening to Life Force, Tony comes out and says, "Oh, he's been my personal physician for 20 years." And I go, "Oh, okay, that's interesting." And I started taking some of his drugs, his nutraceuticals.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you what, they're pretty good quality. I mean, he's really, guy's a pretty brilliant guy.
Well, most definitely. Yeah, that's another guy. Definitely done a lot of research.
Yeah. There's
Yeah.
another guy out there at the University of UCLA is I can't remember his Dr. Lustig. He did a series back years ago on toxicity of sugar. It was on 60 Minutes. You can actually see the video on YouTube, and talked about how toxic sugar is in our society and how it's just wiping out people everywhere. And really brilliant guy. He's an endocrinologist and he did like 30 years of research on sugar and, came to the conclusion it's worse than cocaine, the
Oh yeah,
addictive
that's the most addictive drug in the world, is sugar.
drug
Yep.
in the world. And,
Yep.
and it really, I started looking at the ingredients of foods and things. There's sugar in everything. We're just being pumped full of crap in our system every day,
Yep. Yep. Yep.
You
So
know,
that's why, yeah. And by changing, I think human beings need to do first research to see what the latest is, and then modify your lifestyle accordingly. So many of my friends, especially in high school, that they never took care of themselves, and so now when they each reach the age that we are, they're not in too good shape. So, and yet the body can always come back. That's the powerful thing.
isn't that amazing?
It has the power, the intuition, the miraculous ability to heal itself. So that's kind of like that's kind of like one reason why I write, to hopefully, if I can just help just one person change their life around, that's a good thing,
Yeah, that's all right. It's good to get it out there because when people see it in not only real time, but they also know that you've been on the journey. You're not just some person that's out there just making blanket statements. You've gone through the experience of healing and you're all the unconscious stuff that goes on in our world. And I
Mhm.
did, it's funny because I'm glad we're having this conversation because I have such a profound story to tell people, and I really need to get out and share that story.
Yeah, you do. Oh, most definitely. I didn't even know about that, but and Schweitzer never told me. David and I have been close for a good, ever since we were in Arizona.
It's not I don't share it with a lot of people, but
Yeah.
there have been people who've come into my life that needed that to hear it. And, I said, look, do what you want with it, but it's up to you. It all goes back to one thing, self-love,
Mhm.
it's, Ramtha said, love is the cosmic glue that holds everything together. And I never
Yeah.
forgot that statement, and it's true, it's a very powerful energy, love, and so it begins with self-love. Again, it goes back to from within, so without,
Mhm.
it's I mean, disease is really dis-ease. People are, they have a lot of uncomfortable feelings in their
Mhm.
emotions that cause things to manifest, that it's almost like an awakening,
Mhm.
to who we are. You know, people like you, people like me, we pay attention to it. We have.
Mhm.
You know, I can't say I'm perfect at it. I still work at it every
Yeah.
day.
Yeah. So who
But
would you say that the top five people who gave you inspiration in your life, either on this side or the other side?
well, I mean, I've been around some pretty amazing thought leaders.
Yeah, yeah.
Um, I think the journey that I went through with, Mafu, Ramtha, and all, that was very different from my conventional with, I grew up, my father was a priest, that foundation of religion, you know, and it's funny because when I was 18, I told my dad, I said, I don't want to become a priest, and I'm going to go to the seminary. And then my world opened up to metaphysics and I thought, oh, wow, this is way beyond Christianity. And, there's other realms out there that I need to explore.
Uh-huh.
So Rick
Yeah.
is the beginning journey. I think, my time with in the world of, Tony and living in that space of personal growth was a very instrumental time in my life. My personal friends, I mean, guys like you and David, we've stayed connected over the years, and it's there. You guys are kind of like my connectors in to the other world. I don't have
Yeah.
I don't have a lot of friends that are out there in the spiritual world, or which I mean, they're out there, but they're different,
Mhm.
So
And don't you think there's going to be a point of time uh, where people will realize the spiritual path is the most practical path? Because you can't, practicality. If you don't have that mindset, the wisdom from within, how do you think we can live practically on this planet? How do we think we can change and morph and be better without that mindset of constantly knowing that we this is an evolution that we're on. It could be for most people that aren't even aware that there is an evolution. So,
well, Brian Tracy, again, these are some of my mentors. Brian always said that, every great accomplishment is a series of little things that nobody ever sees or recognizes.
mhm.
It's like it's not in the full scope of our awareness.
Yeah.
It's the journey that we're on and the little things that we do little by little that lead to great things in our great transformation or great changes in our life. And
Like artists and musicians, like that, so many artists, when they're alive, they're penniless, but when they die, their paintings are worth millions. Same thing with in the music world, the Beethovens, the Mozarts,
yeah,
those.
well, we all have gifts, and we're all given those gifts, and many people go through their journey of life. I just like I'll watch American Idol every now and again, because I love to see these people just step into their talent. They have incredible voices or gifts in music, and they step into this world that they've never been in, and you watch them go through a transformation. It just blows me away that how many gifted, talented people are on the planet, and they die with the music in it. You know,
Mhm. Yeah, yeah, yeah,
and they
yeah.
never, and they never share it. So I love when to see people who emerge in their own gifts and their own talents, because that to me is the most profound thing to see in transformation.
Mhm.
And, I'm one that needs to listen to that even more because, again, I have great insights and stories of my life and my journey, and I need to share those more too. So it's,
Mhm.
people want to hear it and experience it because it sets the path for all of us, gives
Yeah,
us
yeah.
the hope of a brighter future. And I think there's so much negativity, Richard, in our life today, and you really got to weigh it out and balance it. And it's hard, because
Yeah.
I can pull up this little device right here and I can know pretty much anything I want to know in seconds, and it's just a matter of what information are we tapping into.
Yeah, I wrote a book called Conscious Politics, and all my books are real simple. They're not highfalutin, they're not intellectual, but I kind of take a look at politics, and here's my scenario. If you are kind and you are a politician, you're going to make kind laws, and if you make kind laws, that will affect the people, that are the citizens of your country. If you have a kind president, he'll never go to war because he'll have the insight and intuition, to see that the war is totally obsolete through kind just through kindness itself. You'll learn how to compromise. It is not trying to prove your point. You compromise is always bowing and bending, which we don't see the word compromise anymore in our society, do we? It's either my way or the highway. You're if you don't follow, you don't believe in me, then exactly. so
I
so so
always,
that's
go ahead. I'm sorry.
so, oh no, no, go ahead.
No, I was going to say one thing that was interesting about Donald Trump as a politician is, here's a guy that came into Washington, and I don't necessarily agree with his rhetoric, the way he went about things, but if he did one thing, he definitely put the optics on our government. And
Mhm.
I don't think I ever paid any attention to it throughout my life until he became president. And man, did it open up a lot of people's eyes. And um, I agree with you. There has to be a shift in consciousness in that element because these people, I mean, what goes on is it's pretty dark. I mean, it's a dark energy over there. This situation is going on at our southern border. Just this craziness that goes on. It needs to. It does need a kind energy. I mean, I agree with you on that. It's people. Joe. I mean, I feel Joe Biden. I don't know. I have. I'm not a big fan, but I've had prior experiences with his family from other business dealings, and he's kind of a dark individual. People don't realize it, and I don't mean that
Well,
in a
the thing
negative.
is, I think we need a changing of the guard. Basically, I think uh, right now we need young people, to come in and govern. They have a whole different mindset than us. They have a whole. I mean, even right now, it's kind of funny. Fortune 500 companies are having a hard time finding people, who want to work for them because they're young people said, "There's no way, I'm not going to work 100 hours a week." Especially during COVID, I want to work at home. And these companies are seeing that this new caliber of people have a whole different way of thinking and being. That they see, that what they're offering they don't want. So these companies, even politics, we're going to have to change for the better. That's how.
We just have to change, period.
Yeah,
Um, I'm not happy with the way things are. I'm concerned. I'm not, let me put it this way. I think there's a better path in our global economy. I think there's a better path in our global politics. I don't like this crap that's going on in China with them dropping bombs around Taiwan. I think this thing that happened in Ukraine was a horrible situation.
yeah.
And I think what's happening in our border is a horrible situation. And what blows me away is, I mean, I had a guy's telling me today, he goes, "Did you hear this, this rumor that, Joe Biden is going to retire and then Kamala Harris is going to be hired by some corporations and Nancy Pelosi is going to retire and they're going to put Gavin Newsom in as the president."
Oh gosh.
Where does this stuff come from? Just like, it's like bizarre world. I hate to say that, it's pretty funny, but it's interesting. It's an interesting time for sure.
Hmm.
You just gotta weigh it out. I don't care if you're Democrat or Republican. It doesn't. Who cares?
It does
That's
make
just
it exactly.
it's just an agenda. That's all that is. And
Yeah. One of my books is From Me to We. We are still in the phase where it's totally me, my country, my place, my this, my that, my. That's why we have all these conflicts. It's my. You're opposing me, so I'm going to fight. I'm going to do whatever. I'm going to bring you down. I'm going to get back at you. We are still immature, adults. And my theory, it takes probably about 1,000,000 years for a civilization to grow up. Nobody gets a free ride. Even these past civilizations across the universe, as I said before, they have to go through the same scenario that we went through. A lot of them didn't. Look at the asteroid belt. Maledic was a perfect example. It got blown up. So there are civilizations that you got two choices. Either you make it or you don't. And it's the same thing with this planet. Now, I have high hopes for this planet because I see, you know, and you've seen there's tremendous stinkers out there.
Oh,
Yeah,
brilliant people,
tremendous. Yeah.
brilliant. Yeah.
But the thing is, they should be brought to the forefront. I would like to have a society or the world at large where all these thinkers could actually be brought to the forefront and their ideas could be put into practice, not in some hidden lie, you know, a lab or in some think tank or within the scientific community, but let's say media at large would embrace them.
Media is very toxic,
Yeah.
and in this in our current environment, it's a very toxic uh, thought process. I agree with you. I mean, when you look at guys like Elon Musk, I mean, I think he's a pretty forward-thinking guy. I think, I think the Jeff Bezos of the world, and again, I don't know their political agendas. I get glimpses of it, but there's too much wisdom out there for our world to be going through what we're going through right now. Now, I can't speak for the rest of the globe. I just, I live in this country. I think people over here are very jaded and, they go through life with their blinders on. And, you know, um, these veils need to be lifted. How do we lift them, Richard? How do we lift them? How do we get people to see beyond this? It's a miraculous world we live in.
Yeah, yeah. So, but
And
the seed has been planted. So a seed that has been planted, it could take 10 years, 1,000 years, 100,000 years, 1,000,000 years, 10 million years. But all true dreams eventually manifest. That's my personal thinking. It may not be in this lifetime. It may be in hundreds of lifetimes, but that dream exists inside of everyone. Everyone has that dream, whether they realize it consciously or not. That is the human spirit that goes on.
I'll
So
tell you a quick story, and to speak to that, I was when I was in the seminar business, and that's what we did. We promoted Tony's seminars and Brian and Les Brown and all these guys. We did all their seminars around the world, and Brian was one of the speakers that we promoted. Brian Tracy, and he was probably the number one sales trainer in the world at the time I worked for him.
oh
But he
wow.
but his foundation was very metaphysical. Everything that he taught was based on this, like, the brain and how it works, and the spirit and the psychology. But one night we were out to dinner, and he said, "Let's go back to I was doing one of his events called the Phoenix Seminar, and a very spiritually based seminar he did. Went back to the hotel, and he says, why don't we grab a drink and go down to the pool, and I want to go swim a couple laps and maybe take a jacuzzi." So I said, "Okay, I'll join you. I'll meet you down there." So we went in the jacuzzi. So I was talking to him, but I never had a lot of one-on-one time with him because he's brilliant mind. So I said to him one night, I said, "So Brian, tell me what I have to do. You've been doing this for 20 years. What I have to do to be real successful in the seminar business." And he looked at him and he says, "When I started in the business," he says, "I would have sold my house, my car, anything to get my information published." And he goes, "But I'll tell you, here's the key to success in anything you do in the world." He goes, "Think of yourself as a farmer." He says, "What do farmers do?" He goes, "They plant seeds." And he goes, "A farmer, in order for their crops to come to fruition, they have to till the soil, they have to nurture their crops, they have to plant their seeds, and they have to continually do this." He goes, "Because what's going to happen, droughts are going to come along, birds are going to eat the seeds, weeds are going to kill their plants."
Yeah, right.
And he goes, "But if you continually do the philosophy of the farmer and keep planting seeds and keep nurturing them and keep, fertilizing them," he goes, "one day your crops will come to fruition." He goes, "It's like that application applies to everything in life that we do." He goes, because there's no perfect path to success. You
Hmm.
know, and I thought that was a great metaphor. I always remember that.
Well, look at us right now, where we were 33 years ago and where we are now. It's kind of, for me, it's a miracle. I mean, just wow.
Is it a miracle because you're still here or because of what you've learned?
Oh, probably everything's a miracle.
Everything's a miracle.
So I would, the older I get, the more I see every moment is a total miracle. Oh my gosh, every morning I wake up, I'm in total joy. Oh my gosh, another day. To express myself, to be myself, and to realize, wow, we're alive. That's a God. That's yeah. I'm a lot of times I'm speechless on that.
What
And
is it? How does that saying go? Before enlightenment, I chopped wood and carried water. After
yeah,
enlightenment,
yeah.
chopped wood.
And even in terms of how practical meditation is, meditation for me now isn't just simply closing my eyes and meditate, but every moment is in a state of meditation. So when I sleep, my sleep state is in a state of meditation. My awakened state is in a state of meditation. So a lot of times I feel more, how do I say, the energetics identify more with the energetics of that experience than my physical body, if that makes sense.
Sure. Yeah.
And that's what we wanted back then. And so then, coming back to Zoran, and one main thing I learned from Zoran, it was just laugh, have humor. He says,
That's
good things will happen to you, bad things will happen to you. When the good things happen, laugh. When the bad things happen, laugh. Everything changes. He says, you never know why you had to go through it. Everything changes, everything morphs. Human beings only want to hold on to something that they consider permanent. Nothing is permanent, nothing. So I like his humor. Just laugh your way through it.
what my mother-in-law's. I told you she's got dementia. She just moved in with us. Well, my wife's, she's a little bit challenged with it, and she's always struggling. That I can't believe my mother's like this, and I got to, and I'm always joking with it. I'll go over and ask her silly things. My wife says, she doesn't know that. I said, I know, but it's okay. We got to have fun with this process because if you take it too seriously, it's going to get the better of you.
Yeah, yeah,
Let life take its course and do what it's going to do. It's a blessing in her life that she has you to take her because a lot of people don't have that. On the other side of it, she's such a good soul and she's such a past, if she was a difficult person, it would be more challenging. But, I said, learn from this experience, let it be a bless. My father changing his diapers was, I never really understood the term humility until I went through that process of changing my father's diapers, who I put on a pedestal, right? And he was a powerful orator. He was a brilliant man. He was a theologist. He was he imagine 4 generations of rape, baptizing, bearing, marrying. 4 generations of families. And this he was so respected, and to watch him go through this process was mind shattering. You know,
wow.
and there were times I would sit in the car with him, taking the doctor, and the tears would be flowing, and you know, and what I learned in that process was I said, this he gave me the greatest gift, by being able to share in his humility.
Yeah. Oh, wow.
And I said to my wife, I said, this is a blessing. It's the toughest thing you'll ever go through, but it'll be the biggest blessing you'll ever have.
Yeah.
You'll never have a regret. You'll never look back, never put your head on your pillow and say, I wish I would have.
Hmm.
Yeah. So it's very interesting, watching. and dealing with these kind of situations in life, and it's how you perceive them. It's what you do and how you
Yeah.
embrace them. It can kick your butt, or you can look at
Mhm.
that as a blessing and say, hey, what am I to learn from this experience here? Because as we know, this life is experiential, and it can be very transformational. It can be, I'm not out of the woods. I still go through my moments where I go, what
Oh
the
well, we
hell,
all
dude?
do. Yeah. I don't know if we ever. I mean, even the Dalai Lama. I remember he was saying, when he was young, he had quite the temper tantrum. I love that, and even today, I don't know if there's anyone on the face of the planet can say that uh, emotions won't come up. It's how you deal with them and don't identify with them. I think that's the main key. Um, is that we're emotional beings, that, and there's a lot of times those emotions that a lot of times that we feel may not even be our own emotions. It might be just like, for example, America today. America's scared. It's petrified. We're having a hard time, consciously as a nation. Nothing seems to be working. COVID. For me, COVID was Mother Nature was told the whole world. That's the first time ever I saw, the whole world shut down. Mother Nature was saying, "Go to your rooms and think about things." That didn't last very long, but even still,
Well, it's called state management. It's how do we manage that state of consciousness we're in, and
yeah, yeah.
it's a gift or it's a curse, and for most people it becomes a curse because they don't know how to manage it. They don't know what to do with their thoughts, and who's listening to me, who cares about, where they say, if you have a problem, 80% of the people don't care and the other 20% are glad it's your problem. They don't want to sit and listen to it.
Yeah, 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 right. Yeah.
So it's an interesting time we're in for sure. And I think there's a big awakening going on personally,
Most definitely. Oh, yeah. Oh, God. Oh, my gosh.
and
Just think of all those. Just think in that small area of the people that you work with and those great thinkers. How much, just in their small way, or grand way, and so how many people have gotten affected by their message.
well, Tony, he was doing a live event this week on YouTube, and he did with this guy Dean Graciano, and they were doing this.
Oh yeah, I know. Oh yeah, yeah, yeah. Uh-huh.
If you saw it or was watching any of it, but it's interesting because when we used to do the events with Tony, we would put 2 or 3 thousand people in a room. And I'm looking at this on Facebook the other day, and he had 40,000 people watching it on Facebook, and he had 56,000 people on YouTube watching this live event. And he's in a room, and he's got these screens everywhere. And back in the day, one of his visions, he always built the foundation of his business called TNT, Tony Not There, because he wanted his legacy to go on after he left this planet.
Mhm.
Everything he did was built on that foundation. And back in the day, we didn't have the technology we have today. Our foundation was out there going into these theaters, United theaters across United movies, whatever they were.
All the AMC theaters and stuff. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, they're AMC today. But we were going to do events and movie stream them all across the world, the country, and where people could go in and he could do and be in multiple locations. Now he's got YouTube and Facebook. And it's just mind-boggling how in 2 decades, how far we've come in technology to be able to inspire. I mean, imagine 100,000 people watching a video for him for 2.5 hours in a seminar. Is he touching everybody? We knew the metrics back when we worked with him because we knew if people went to his one-day seminar, they would roll up to the fire walk and then they would go to his master university, and it was always a 10%. So it's always that 80-20 rule, Richard, believe it or
Yeah.
not. You could be in front of millions of people and they could be sitting there learning from you, but It's a rare person that walks out and integrates it. And, I always tell people, I said, the only difference is be here 5 years from now on what your journey is in the process. And, where do you want to show up 5 years from now? Which side of 5 years do you want to show up on? Because,
Mhm.
you can start down the path, but it's easy to get distracted and fall off the path. The key
Yeah.
is continually inoculate yourself on a daily basis, and it's just a process, man. We're all in we're still in the process.
Yeah. Yeah. But even despite those, that aren't doing anything with it, the seeds have been planted. They're not dormant, mind you. The seeds, the way I look at it, our true selves knows when we're presented with something that we need. Maybe
Right.
subconsciously we know that. Maybe consciously we don't. But that seed has been planted. That's why I see there's so much hope in this world, and with technology, the way it's going, it's kind of like bridging the gap where now some speaker can speak to millions around the world. So
Unbelievable, right?
yeah, yeah. Oh my gosh, yeah, yeah. So and we all have a piece of the puzzle. So if we all just put our piece in the puzzle, then we'll have a incredible puzzle of life on this planet.
Yeah, it's you just have to have the desire. People are starving for, they're starving for happiness, they're starving for love. They're craving that, what's the magic pill? It's the Matrix.
Yeah, 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 exactly. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Oh yeah.
We're living in the modern Matrix, and it's very cool to see all this. Well, hey, we're in the beginnings of something profound. I'm just waiting for our brothers from space to show up. That'll be an interesting day, you know.
Yeah, I thought think about that because Rand told me I could go board his ship any time. Back then I was really interested in that. And then about a year ago, I get this message from Zoran, and he says, "This is the spaceship. Life itself is the spaceship. There's no physical. Granted, he said I have a physical, spaceship that has nothing to do with what I'm talking about. That this you are the universe and you just don't know it. This is the spaceship. So back then we had concepts, of what we wanted, but and even so back then, the great teachers never, condemn you or said you should think this way. Okay, yeah, sure. You want to board my trip? Yeah, on a ship? No, yeah, sure. No, 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 no problem. But then years later, you see the gist of what he's saying. Kindness is another thing I really get from these spiritual. Kindness is the answer. Mafu was like that. Ranto, he believed in kindness. But he was a little bit. How do I say? Really, he used forceful terms to wake people up. That he was a warrior. Let's put it this way. And
Ramtha woke me up, that's for sure.
yeah, yeah, exactly, exactly. So
It's funny when we left Yucca Valley. He said, "I want you to go home," and he goes, "And I want you to go into a process of allowing, just allow." He goes, "When somebody comes in and treads on you or they push your button, just look at them and go, 'I allow you your truth,' because whatever their truth is what their truth is, whether it's good, bad,
yeah,
whether you
yeah.
agree or disagree, it's still their truth. So
Uh,
when they come back and they push your button, he goes, 'You want to know what's inside of you?' He goes, 'Look at the person that's pushing your button and just say, 'I allow you your truth.' And he goes, 'And watch what comes out of you.'" Well, I went back. I had a 22-year-old girlfriend who was a partier, and I came back from Yucca Valley and she was living with me. And we went through this whole week where I did this exercise. Oh my God. what came out of me was just, just poisonous, venomous stuff that was emerging. And I'm going, what the hell is that about? That I wasn't even aware of, like, how we make judgments about other people and other things in our life. And, and to go into that process of allowing, just letting it be, and not make any judgments about it. It was such a profound lesson, and, when I get in those moments, I just say, okay, this isn't about you. This is about me. And I have to allow that process to go on. So it's like with my mother-in-law now, I just allow her to be in her dementia, and my wife is always reactive. And I said, come from a place of compassion and not reactivity. Don't be reactive to her disease.
Yeah.
Be compassionate to her disease. It'll make your journey easier with her,
Yeah, in the Kabbalah, I studied the Kabbalah for a while, and it says the difference between being proactive and reactive. A person who's proactive, whatever comes at them, you kind of shrug your shoulders. I can't change the situation. I can't control you. I can't do anything about it. I can try to change you, but the only thing that does is makes you frustrated. You can't change anybody.
Right, you can. Yeah. Look, I always tell my wife, I said, look, everything is control what you can control, and everything else is commentary. That's all it is. If you can't control it, it's just commentary.
Yeah.
Then you have to make a decision what you want to do with it. So, well, it's been great catching up and talking, and we should do this more often. I enjoy it.
Yeah. I want to do one with you and David. Together. I told David, and David thought that was a good idea. He loved that story, by the way, when I told him about when you sent me that message, with the same time I was listening and transcribing the Zoran tapes, and I was having, and he was talking about David and David. I mean, that's talk about synchronicity, a butterfly effect. 33 layers. Yeah, it was just like, almost a moment in time. That's all it was, 33, just a moment in time, and it goes through 33 years.
Yeah, right. It was yesterday.
Yeah.
Crazy, right?
Anyway, I'm glad we caught up. We're on the same wavelength. Yeah, we should do this. Yeah, definitely more often.
What was crazy with Zoran? He said to me, he goes, you don't know this. He goes, but your good friend David and you have been on a journey, and you're part of what they call an intergalactic CIA. Okay, what does that mean? He goes, well, you go to planets when they're in transformation. You're teachers, you're light people, and you come to these planets and you go through the process, and he goes, you don't realize it, you don't even know it yet. He goes, but you'll be made aware of that.
Oh wow.
Yeah, pretty interesting.
Do you have any of his tapes at all? Do you have anything? Nope, nothing. Yeah.
Those were done in live. I can't even remember the woman. What was her name?
Makar.
Makar. Yes. Do you keep in touch with her?
Oh, we lost track of her about 20 years ago. We went to Mexico with Zoran and Makar for a month in the 90s after Barbara and I got married. And my wife was real close to her for all throughout the 90s. But then 2000, all of a sudden, she just dropped out. But we have no idea. We've been trying to figure out. I'm going to be having a conversation with Mimi. Remember Mimi? I don't know if you know her. Maybe not. Yeah, she was Shay. I don't know if you know Shay either. Probably not. David knows both of them because.
Yeah, I mean, even Jay-Z I don't know if Jay-Z's still out doing work with Ramp. I mean, she's probably a lot older now and maybe settling into her life a little bit. I don't know. I'm not sure. Even Penny Torres, she was out there with Moffat. I hung out with them a lot. Penny was an interesting character.
Yeah, she was, and yeah, I was involved with Moffat for a good 20 years until about 2011. When we moved here, I haven't been in it
She was up. She was up in Oregon. I think she went up there
Yeah,
and built
yeah,
an animal sanctuary or something.
yeah. She has a tiger sanctuary. She has this beautiful ashram up about 6,000 feet. I mean, it's gorgeous there. No,
Still, is she
yeah,
still
still
up?
does. Yeah, she's still active. Yeah,
And she's
still,
channeling and
yeah, still channeling. Yep, yeah, yeah, yeah. Still,
I'll tell you what, that's interesting. I gotta, she, do you ever follow her at all or see where she's, or not
yeah.
really?
A lot of my friends are still active. Malfu doesn't come as much as anymore. He got involved in the '90s with Eastern meditation, Eastern thoughts. So a
Uh-huh.
lot of the stuff, yeah, he's real good at acquiring. He says at times stealing meditation techniques from the Buddhists, from the yogis, so he uses these techniques almost as his people who are into him as almost as guinea pigs. He sees what works and what doesn't. They're a fine group of people. They in terms of just being kind. Every time I go up there, they're kind people, gentle people. A lot of them are extremely rich, but they're when you're in that atmosphere, it's like homogenized milk. There's not one flavor is not better than another flavor. The and that's what kind of I like about them. There, the simplicity and just the dedication that they have to make this world a better place. They do a lot of chanting. When there's world troubles, they'll chant for 12 hours at a time. Like a fire or someone gets assassinated or the wars in Ukraine are going on. So they have a lot of heartfelt sentiment. Toward towards human, towards the planet, which is nice to see. Yeah,
It's good to be kind without expectation. That's the thing.
yeah, exactly.
Be kind without expectation. Be giving without expectation. And that's important, I think.
Yeah, I don't know Amaji at all. I don't think I ever had a conversation with her. Now, Mafu's a different story. I've had tons of conversations with him. I remember a couple of times I would even see Amaji at a grocery store, and she had no idea who I was. No idea. Well, which is perfectly fine with me. And I thought about it. Well, yeah, well, why would she? We'd never been introduced. Now, Mafu is a different story. Uh, yeah, he for some reason we really got along well together. We would have a lot of discussions together. So,
Yeah, I hung out with Penny a lot. She was a cool. We got along. You know,
uh,
um, Perhaps I was just more of an audience participant. I didn't really, although we had a lot of direct connections. I think I had my most profound experiences with Ramtha. You know, and but had some pretty nice experiences with
mhm.
and and
Did you go
regard.
to those Mendocino retreats?
What's that?
Mendocino retreats. Did you go to that? I know David.
Yes, we did. We did. It was up in the. We were in cabins, right?
Yeah, yeah. That's where I thought I met you for the first time. Yeah, I always thought that. Oh, when I met you, I said,
It was a wet weekend that weekend or
yeah,
whatever.
yeah, yeah. That's when there was two retreats one weekend after another weekend. There's two times.
Yeah.
Uh,
Oh my gosh. I mean, I could literally write a whole book on all the different experiences of people that I met, the things that showed up, and just, things that were so out of the scope of my thinking,
yeah.
like, wow, it was profound. Um,
Well, you should. I'll be one of your first readers.
I'm gonna do that. Let me ask you a question. I was in Sedona. We were going, we were doing a lot of stuff out there. And it was on the day of the harmonics convergence. It was happening that day. And that day I picked up Richard and said, I'm not supposed to be here anymore. And I came back to Miami. And It was like I left that world completely behind me. And, for the next 4 or 5 years, I struggled with a lot of things that I was going through. Um, but what do you think would have caused a person to just like in the midst of all this stuff, I, I've often wondered that. What was a
My,
triggering
my
event?
intuition tells me you want to have your feet on the ground and your head in heaven. You want to be practical. This is a practical path. That's all this other stuff. In Sedona, we're just like fluff. We thought they were important stuff. This and that. The channeling, and the space rides and seeing UFOs. It's all fluff. You wanted a practical experience that you can incorporate in your life. You're married and you have a wonderful wife, and you had to take care of your father. Imagine if you weren't practical and down to earth, it would have been a different experience. Even with your a mother-in-law, you're a mature, sophisticated adult, and that's a good thing. What I mean by that, you have mature emotions. You're not a victim. You
No,
can, and so you had, and that's an incredible journey to take. All those things, from being with Tony Robbins and all those guys. Those truths, reside
that was
inside you.
practical. That was more,
Yeah, yeah,
even though it was a lot of the similar work that we were doing, but it was more practical because it
yeah.
was more into mainstream.
And
What
that's
we
what
were
this.
doing in Sedona was way out of mainstream.
Right, right. So that's what, even for myself, that's why I say the spiritual path is the most practical path. I modified my lifestyle where, how do I say it, moment by moment, or what, no matter who I meet, I just try to reflect that kindness towards others, and then you're doing the same thing. So this is practical, once again, and that's why you were told to leave. Otherwise, you could just get in that mindset, and it could be an entrapment, and being trapped. And,
Right. You
and
gotta,
yeah, so
what Ramtha said once, and this was probably the last event I went to with him. He says, you're gonna get what I'm teaching when you can turn on your heels and march out of my audience and never come back again.
yeah, yeah.
Because I don't want to be your God.
Hmm.
You need to be your own God. And he goes, when
Hmm.
you can turn on your heels and march out of here without the need to,
Yeah.
you got it.
And that's what my wife went to that retreat, and she told me that same story. I mean, how wonderful, isn't that? That's incredible to have a teacher, who really believes in that, that and has given you that encouragement to know that someday you'll be growing up, and just like a mother and its child, the child eventually goes through stages, and it grows up and walks away from the nest. That's a beautiful thing.
Yeah. Take your power and embrace it, become your God self and go into the world and create,
Yeah, yeah.
that was pretty profound. I'm trying to, did I ever meet your wife? Does she,
I
I'm
don't know if
I'm
you
sure
ever
she was
met.
there. I probably met her. I bet you if I saw her.
But what's kind of funny, that who's that guy in Cave Creek? He's in Narantha. You, my wife would either miss you guys by a day or 2 days, and this we're talking about 5 times. She would go from Washington to Arizona, and I forgot. Oh, what was the guy's name?
Okay,
That's
he was a real estate agent. I'm going to tell you a story about him. When I left New Mexico and I got into Flagstaff, I said, this is where I'm supposed to be. I called up Schweitzer and I said, Schweitzer, I'm moving to Arizona. This is where I'm going to be. I went to his house in Cave Creek and stayed there when I first got to Phoenix. And he let me stay at his house for about a week or so. And then I got my own apartment finally, because I didn't really know Arizona that well. But I stayed, and I just said to Schweitzer the other day, I said, it's interesting because I stayed, and I think his name was Richard. He was a real estate guy. And he had this cool house out in Cave Creek. And that was the first guy I stayed at his house when I got to Arizona.
Oh, wow. Yeah, I've been to that house. Actually, I've been to the house with you guys.
Up
Yeah,
in Sedona,
yeah, yeah, when we're in Sedona. Oh gosh, I forgot what his name was.
yeah, nice guy. I met him at the retreat. Yeah, and he said, if you ever come to Arizona, give me a call. He goes, you're welcome to come and hang at my house. And
yeah.
what a small world. I didn't even know your wife. That's interesting. There's something here. We got to figure it out.
Yeah, exactly. Well, anyway, I shouldn't keep you going. It's supposed to be an hour, and I think, it's 2 hours. Okay.
Okay, well, that's good.
Yeah.
It wasn't a bad conversation then. Well, nice to catch up with you, and great. You look great. I'm glad everything is, you're in that process of healing and doing all those good, positive things. And, keep up your writings on Facebook. I read them all the time. And maybe you'll start seeing me writing some stuff.
Yeah. Well, that'd be great. Oh, I'm an instigator in that. Oh, yeah, that'd be great. Yeah.
I put up stuff every now and again.
Yeah.
Well, good to talk to you, Richard. And let's hook up with Schweitz and do a three-way there. It would be fun.
All right.
I'd love to say hello to your wife.
Yeah, I will. Yeah. and vice versa. Yeah, maybe someday. I lived in Miami for 6 years in the 80s.
I remember, yeah.
Yeah.
That's where I think I first met you, in Miami.
Yeah, I don't think I ever met you in Miami. No.
Where did you live?
Miami Beach. I lived right where. Oh, do you know where the Arthur Godfrey goes to Collins? I lived on a condo in a rooftop condo. Do you know the?
I remember because I lived right down the street on Collins Avenue.
That's what you're saying. Yeah. And I was on Collins Avenue. I was on Collins Avenue, and right where Arthur Godfrey meets it.
You lived right on the south side of the Fountainwood, I think.
Yeah, exactly. Yep.
Yeah, we were next. Yeah, I remember because I think you might have been. Were you doing Miraji stuff and meditation?
Yeah, I was. Yeah. I was working for the Miami Beach Police. I was the software engineer for them.
Is that right? Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Yeah.
A lot of time in between, right?
Yeah. I developed.
2 hours went by. It's nothing. We have 30 years of experiences since then.
I developed a crime analysis program. Do you remember when the crime skyrocketed in Miami Beach with the Cuban refugees? Castro let open his prison.
Yeah, back in the 80s, all the Marielitas, they called them or something.
Yeah.
Wow, crazy. Interesting life. Well, great catching up with you, and God bless. And
God bless. Yeah.
Stay in touch, and let's stay connected because I think it's good.
Yeah. This time it won't be 33 years.
Yeah, right. Okay. All right, man. Good talking to you. And again, regards to your wife.
Yeah, thanks. Okay, likewise. Okay.
Okay. Bye-bye.
Okay.